Welcome to Her Path, the podcast for busy women looking for health, happiness, and purpose. Today, we're going to revisit one of our favorite topics, and honestly, one of your favorite topics. Our minds are assholes. That episode that we did over a year ago is one of the most listened to of our podcasts, and we thought it's time to revisit that. So, there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of stresses that we're all dealing with every day. We have a lot of goals and ambitions, and our environment creates challenges for us everywhere. And that makes the perfect recipe for our mind to be an asshole to us. And we know that when our mind is an asshole to us, it's really a protective mechanism. Our brain is trying to protect us, to keep us safe, to keep us secure, to keep us healthy. And our minds and our brains associate risks and doing things out of our comfort zone as something that could hurt us. So, I want to give an example. So, since January, I have had many clients who are really, really struggling with what's going on in our country, what's going on in the world. There's fear, there's anxiety, there's all of these emotions and wanting to get real and wanting to be authentic and wanting to take action. But real fear around I'm in a workplace where I can't have, any political, associations, or I don't know what my friends will think of me, or things like that. And as they're wrestling with this, their minds start going places with them. Well, who do you think you are? And why do you think that you're worthy of speaking up and talking? Or um, you're going to lose your job over this, or you're going to lose friends, or you're going to lose family. Just one example of how our minds work feels like it's working against us, but it's working to protect us. So, how do we move forward from that? We're going to talk about that today. We're going to give you some tips and some tricks and teach you how to start to manage your mind. That's what we all do as coaches, and that's what we do with our clients every day. But I want to open it up to the group because this topic keeps coming up. I think we reference it in almost every one of our podcasts, when our minds become assholes. So I definitely want to revisit your perspectives for our listeners before we get into the what to do about it.
My perspective, before I discovered life coaching, I didn't realize that the misery that I was living in my life was self-imposed. It was really, really quite um, just transformative to be able to go from one just victim. Like, I didn't think that I would like a victim mentality when you think about that, like, oh no, I'm not a victim. But the more you like dig into it and what it means, just to be uh an emotional adult versus being an emotional child, and just having that victim mentality of everything's wrong. And I think having the freedom of being on the other side and just realizing and empowered to know that whatever is happening is because what I'm thinking about it, like how I'm reacting to it. So, like, right, for an example, like if, maybe I'm fearful to share my political beliefs, right, with somebody. And that fear is coming from my thought of what that person is going to think about me or say to me, do to me, whatever. Um, but if I have a different thought like that, like I'm going to share this belief with this person thinking that they share the same belief, that would shift that feeling from fear to maybe, I don't know, connection or acceptance or something like that. But So for me, it's just been to know that you are in charge of what you think has been so powerful. But then also to know that there are thoughts that you will not be able to ever like manipulate and control to change how you feel. You have to just learn how to accept some feelings without changing it, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think that last part, correct me if I'm wrong, sounds like you have some values sometimes. And I think knowing what your values are is important. And n not everyone is going to think or act like us. And that is what is wonderful about people is that we are all different, we are all unique, we all think differently, we are diverse, and that is what makes us as a human, species completely is successful and able to survive our unique differences within the way that we think and the way that we function. And I totally agree with you, Beth. Until I found coaching, which was during the pandemic, when I was mentally very, very conflicted with a lot of, as far as my job as a primary care doctor during that time, it was really, really challenging with this pandemic and vaccines and politics, all these things being so closely like intertwined, which was completely different than I had ever experienced before, and still being in integrity with myself while taking care of people who did not agree with me, did not want to take my advice, but obviously wanted to be safe, wanted to be well. And so learning how to change those thoughts in my head instead of thinking all of a sudden, all the negative things about people who don't think like me, trying to see things from their perspective, learning about the different reasons why we act the way they do. Some people are afraid, some people are, from their life experiences, from um, fear of the unknown. There's so many different emotions that make us think and act the way we do. Um, and not assuming that everyone is who didn't think like me was intentionally trying to attack me or belittle me or, um, hurt me in some way, which is exactly where I went to. That was the first thought that would come to mind when someone didn't agree with me was, oh, because I'm Mexican, so they must be racist. Or they must be, from a think have a different political, kind of agenda, or they must be a conspiracy theorist, like all these, I would automatically go to all the negative stuff. So it made me miserable every single day, and I could not continue to function that way. So learning how to wrangle that part of my brain that just straight up went to fight or flight survive and kind of, wrangle it down, it took some practice.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to change anybody. I mean, I did change some people, so yay. That's always fun when people when you can.
But
But
that's not the
that
norm.
that's a lot of the times no, because people have their own values and their own, and their own way of thinking, and that's okay. But yeah, it was making me really miserable.
Yeah.
I was making myself miserable.
Yeah.
Thinking the people were making me miserable. No, it was me making myself miserable.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm. And you said, Gabby, that it took some practice. It still takes practice, right?
Oh,
There's
that
not
has
like a
not gone
place you
away.
don't reach the this is
No,
not a place or type of work where you're gonna, reach the goal or get the blue ribbon or reach the top of the mountain. It's ongoing work
it
until we no longer are on this earth.
it's a
Every
lifelong
minute of the
journey.
day.
Yep. Yeah. Nancy, I'm curious about your perspective here as we're living in these times, how your asshole mind, and you have a name for it. You gave it a name, which is
Oh,
it's a
Lizzie,
Lizzie. Yes,
my
Lizzie.
lizard brain.
Yes.
Yeah. You
How
guys,
does
this is
it?
gonna sound really weird, but I don't live in any fear.
Hmm.
And politically, anything really doesn't really. not like it doesn't bother me, but I don't know. I'm just trying to think of where I'm at with it because I'm not in fear. Um, World events, are world events, there's circumstances. Everybody gets to do what they want to do. I know it sounds weird, but I'm trying to get my mind around where I'm at with it as we're talking. But I don't live in fear.
Good. So when we think about that lifelong journey of managing the Lizzie or the whatever that jerk voice is in our head, a couple things come to my mind and a couple things I consistently work with my clients on. So first thing, Nancy's already done it. Call it out. Tell yourself, hey, there's Lizzie, the lizard. There's that jerk voice. There's that inner critic. There's that asshole again, right? Call it out, acknowledge that it's there, right? That's really important to start to retrain your brain, right? And then I always start with asking those self-coaching questions. So, is this a fact or a thought? Is it true? Is there data to support it, right? Would what I just said to myself, would I say it to a friend? Would I say it to a 5-year-old? And if the answer is no, why am I saying it to myself? Right? Um, and then, as we talk about it, I will I will ask them to flip the script. And that's something we all learned in our coaching certification process, right? A thought download. You take stock of all your thoughts, you ask if they're serving you or not, and then you flip it, right? So I don't know. I'm terrible at doing finances. I don't know, right? That's the thought that comes into my head. How about I'm learning to get better at it, or I'm getting better every day at it. Um, I just failed at this thing is so destructive, right, to our self-esteem. What about, well, this was a challenge. I tried it. I learned from it, and it's not the end of the world. Little ways to flip that script. Um, Sometimes I also talk about ruminating. Like we can just get caught in our own heads, right? We just ruminate and ruminate and ruminate and process and process and process these negative thoughts. How do we get out of that? Moving our body, so important. Go for a walk, do some stretches, go outside and listen to the birds, whatever it is, right? Get out of your head somehow. And then do something that brings you joy, that makes you laugh, that makes you feel good, right? So for me, it's playing with my dog or going out and Gabby's husband and I are bird watchers and that's something that just brings me joy, right? Something that gets us out of our head. And then going back to loving ourselves and we talk about that a lot here, being kinder to ourselves, right? We don't have to be perfect to be worthy. That's a mantra that I use with my clients, I use with myself, I use with my kids. We don't have to be perfect to be worthy. And that can quiet that part of our brain as well. So that's kind of what I do with my clients, with myself, with my kids. What do you guys do?
That's
I
about the same thing I do.
Yeah.
Being really aware of where I'm at. If I'm really sitting a lot and thinking, I know I have to move, making sure I get enough rest. The journaling, the gratitude journaling is really good for me.
Oh, that's a good
Listening
one.
to music. I love music. That changes my energy state so fast. I have a great playlist. What else? Funny movies, talking to someone. Yeah.
What's on your playlist? I just got to ask. Give me one or two songs.
Oh my gosh. What's on my playlist? Um,
Metallica.
yes, there is some Metallica on my playlist.
Nice.
There's some
Makes me
disco,
like
some Earth, Wind, and Fire I love.
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. What about you, Gabby? What are some things that you do to turn off that jerk in your head?
So in the moment when it comes out, I have to, I'm not always really great at turning it off. Sometimes there are moments when I give into it. And, but I feel it. I definitely, when that part comes out, I get a physical response. Like I do get a little shaky,
Oh,
when it's literally, I get like a fight or flight response whenever there's something that doesn't, like that's very, and I guess I'm talking more extreme situations, where someone really doesn't agree or when my brain is just really not, um, I guess I'm thinking more of like confrontational situations, maybe. That's what I'm right now, the example.
Like
And
if you,
so I do have to kind of go slower in the moment. I have to give myself a moment to stop and just think instead of reacting because I can get pretty ghetto fabulous when I go to react. It's like take the earrings off, take the shoes off. Okay, this is not I'm not having this. And so it's taken me some time to be able to just stop and think and, kind of just you're safe, you're okay. This is actually not even about you at all because I used to tend to take things so very personally, like it was exactly about me and it meant something about me that I wasn't a good enough, whatever in that situation, good enough friend, good enough doctor, good enough, member of the community, smart enough, didn't know my data enough, whatever, all of the things, anything that didn't agree with me or that my brain, I just interpreted it as something intentional, geared towards me to harm me in some way. So I had to untrain myself from thinking that as the first thing. So by stopping, breathing, and really kind of saying, what is going on here? And just like you said, Elise, it's like, what is the fact here?
mm,
This person just said, an example, this person just said, I don't believe in vaccines. Okay. So, sit and stop. Okay. Well, very good, because there's a lot of data that shows XYZ. If you change your mind, let me know. I'd be happy to offer it for you. To go from that, from going on in a spiel, and a self-righteous kind of, patronizing way of trying to get the other person to see my point of view. That does not work, and it did not work. So learning how to change my reaction, the way I approach it, um, by slowing down and thinking and seeing the other person's point of view, just made my life so much better. And then afterwards, yeah, I garden, I listen to music too, I cook, I exercise, go to sleep early, all that stuff. I will have a margarita here and there, even though, it gives me palpitations, but I still do it.
got to be real, right?
I'm not perfect.
Right.
Mhm.
Beth, what about you?
Yeah, well, I guess it depends on which situation. If it's just something that I'm ruminating about, like in my head, or if it's like in the moment. But um, I feel like um exercise just recently. Like I went a whole year, as you ladies know, not being able to exercise, and the difference that I've been able to see when I exercise and when I don't exercise. And I feel like you're the body when you do exercise, it promotes like good feelings, like the endorphins are released, right? So it's like preventative, almost like you're setting your body up to be able to accept, right, an assault that it would just like come to you and like bounce right off you, because it's no big deal, because you're feeling good, you're feeling strong, confident in you. And um but I think something that can help when I'm alone is accomplishing something. Like even if it's like something physical, right? Like doing something that I've been wanting to do, something, or just even cleaning the kitchen or the laundry or mowing the lawn, or just being able to do something that I've accomplished to kind of get my brain off out of that negative negative spiral and be like, hey, look what you did. You accomplished something. I also like what changes my mood right away is putting on a podcast and going for a walk and being in nature. I live in beautiful Colorado, and there are nature trails everywhere. There's mountains and hikes and lots of things to do outside. So, and then also I like to go out for a drive in the country and either listen to music or watch my own thoughts and try not to judge them.
So
But
when
I find when I'm driving, that's the easiest time I have to watch my thoughts without like being my thoughts. I think that's such a huge game changer when you can differentiate you being the thought versus you just having a thought.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. And I think that that is also a work in progress, something that we have to keep working on. But I love that you do that. I love the whole picture of you taking a drive in the country and just letting your thoughts come and just observing them and just understanding where they're coming from. I think that that is so powerful. It's great. Well, any last comments on our ever existing asshole minds? All right. Well,
That your asshole minds are not alone. You have lots
yes.
and lots and lots of company.
Yes, they do. They do. And they go in ebbs and flows for sure. If this podcast is helpful for you or enjoyable for you, please like and subscribe. And please feel free to refer it to a friend also. We love this time together to talk to you all and talk about these issues. And we hope that it is relevant to you. And we hope that we've given you some real-time ways to improve how your thoughts are. So until next time, please enjoy.
Hey, one more thing before we leave. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are certified professional coaches, but this broadcast is not a substitute for medical or psychological advice. Okay, thanks for listening. See you next week.